Hey, welcome to Talking Pop Culture with Jake D. This is the Howling About Entertainment Sunday show. I have a couple of guests that are bringing in today. Before we get going, though, please remember to like, share the stream with your friends on social media, and consider subscribing to the channel. As a new creator here, and with a couple of my buddies we'll be bringing in shortly, one of the things that's really helpful to us is when you do click that subscribe button and help us out growing the channel to bring things to a wider and greater audience. It has been a hell of an interesting week. We've got a lot of fun to talk about. We're going to spend a little bit chatting about The Boys Season 2, because there was some crazy shit that happened during the last episode that I think is kind of on a lot of people's minds. And then we really want to start chatting a bit about all this craziness we're hearing about what's been going on with The Mandalorian. And then, on top of that, just sort of fans in general and why we gravitate to some of these rumors. So, all right, first guest I am bringing in is a dear friend from, we're all members at the Nerdrotic channel, and 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. Nick, welcome to the stream.
Hey, Jake, what's up, man?
Oh, man, it is a fine Sunday afternoon. The heat has finally broken down here in Texas for now.
Oh, you're in Texas. Ah, nice.
Yes, it has been an enjoyable day so far, sir.
Nice.
So,
I might move there one day. Once my children hit after 18, I'm out of Illinois. I just have to let you know that. I'm done with Illinois.
Oh,
done.
Man. I was born in Aurora, Illinois, and
oh, no shit.
I was.
World.
Yes, sir. All right, and the second guest for the panel, he's with us most weekends, Draco Argentis. Draco, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you doing up in here?
Oh man, it's it's been a fine Sunday. We had a lot of fun. All three of us were members of the Nerdrotic channel, and one of the very cool things that Gary does as the host of the channel is those of us who are members, he actually brings us on for panels like this to just sort of chat through whatever's on our minds, and it's a lot of fun getting to interact with a guy like that. I mean, compared to the three of us, he's a giant on YouTube, although he'd be the first to tell you that he's at best a mid-sized channel.
Gary.
I aspire to be a small channel.
Yeah, right.
This short of 300K and still just that close. He's a character, and we love him, and he's still just a guy who at one time I think wait a second. I heard he owned a comic shop.
Yes, he did. He's talked about it before.
Really? That's a rumor. I don't know though, right?
Comic shop
fake
owner,
news.
But yeah, maybe.
But season 2 of The Boys, you guys all watched up through the current episode, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. One thing that I have definitely noticed throughout, I mean, not just this season, although in particular this season, but from the start of the show, is that overall, one thing you cannot complain about is the production quality.
Oh yeah, especially for streaming. Like Netflix, like no matter how good their shows get, the CGI and production always looks like crap. So it's nice to see Amazon actually spend some proper money into their original properties.
Yes. Yeah. It's love it or hate it as far as The Boys is concerned. I mean, there's definitely been some folks who've really checked out of it. Myself, I haven't. I'm enjoying the hell out of it still. Mm-hmm. And this last episode was great. But it's definitely been a step forward for their production quality, which, supposedly we're hearing they're sinking ungodly amounts of money into this Lord of the Rings show too. So, maybe that's a good sign.
I'm here.
Oh, okay. We lost your camera though.
Nah, you're good. Yeah.
All right.
We'll all go to symbols.
Yeah.
I gotta learn how to do that. That looks fun.
It's useful. I definitely am a fan of doing that type of green screen fun, but it's I'm not going to pretend otherwise. I may look young and svelte and inexperienced.
This guy's genuine. This guy's real. He ain't got none of this baloney going on. Who needs that?
I have my definite share of boomer moments. Let me tell you.
Don't worry about it. I'm sure you'll get the hang of this thing in no time. Well, where did I put my teeth?
Oh man, so something that I'm enjoying about the boys is, for the most part, they do seem to be very willing to take a shot at almost anyone and everyone, which I sure as hell did not expect. There is the infamous interview with Kripke, right? And every time we talk about the boys, this is a constant refrain from me. I play this because I think it's important. So we take 1 second here.
It's a great question. We were really interested in exploring the idea of authority figures get the public really riled up with xenophobia and racism. Ultimately, the most dangerous people are like the white dudes standing next to you.
Yeah.
Only them white dudes.
So does that make me half dangerous? Because I'm only half white, actually. Even though I may look full white, I'm only half white. So am I half dangerous?
You're in good company with my children there, because they would fall into roughly the same category as you.
We're slightly dangerous.
I think we did get a hell of a shot of what he was talking about to an extent about halfway through the episode.
Oh, yeah, with Starlight.
Well, I was thinking of when we saw that in the last episode 4 in the elevator, right? But
spoiler moments.
Oh yeah,
just want to bring that up.
Yeah, fair point. I think anybody watching is probably pretty sure. Just
making sure.
That's fair. It's good to call out. We're definitely going to be discussing specific plot points all the way up through episode 5. But I'm thinking about that scene where Homelander drops in on the rally, and Draco, why'd you frame it up, right? Like he drops in on the rally with our Tulsi Gabbard stand-in, and we get
and he's decided he's going to take things into his own hands. That he's going to speak out. He doesn't need to listen to any Vought propaganda himself. And there he is in front of a whole group of people just arrayed against him. But he's Homelander. So there he is standing next to her. And here's the white guy over her shoulder. And he decides that when things turn sour, he has this little image in his head. And we know his head has got some curiously bad wiring.
Yep, to say the least.
Lasers the entire crowd in front of him, but that's just what he wants to do because he is nuts. But he's also the white guy over his shoulder, so that follows.
I was honestly almost disappointed that was just in his head. I mean it for real, right? Because he's a bad dude, and he is a great bad guy.
Yeah. I think Star is very good. He's very good.
Yeah, he's good, and I know at some point he goes nuts. I keep hearing that from people who've read the source material. I haven't cracked the books myself, but at some point he does indeed go nuts, and that could have been a place to do it. So. I guess, maybe they're actually doing some build-up, unlike many of our complaints about Game of Thrones season 8, right?
Actually putting in the time. Yes.
Earning it. It's, that's a novel thought.
Yeah, hey. Makes all those deaths that much more like, oh, he killed all those people.
Oh, God, yeah. But the weird thing is, I mean, I knew exactly what he's going to do when I'm watching that scene. Oh, he's going to fucking kill him. Right? And then it turned out he hadn't. That it almost threw me off more than seeing him do it.
I just noticed something on a rewatch of it is that the crowd was almost unnaturally silent, almost like accepting of their fate. And I don't know if that was like in his head or what, the idea that things went silent at the moment that he's doing this, but then you come back to it and they're all screaming against him. In the aftermath, it was kind of like quiet, like you'd expect people to be going sobbing and something like that. And it was just a curiosity that I noticed at the moment. I obviously didn't see it in the first watch.
I watched it twice and I didn't catch that either time. That's
what?
Because on the side, you'd expect if he just did that. Now did he wipe out everybody? Maybe that's what the intent is. But it's like as he's doing it, I was thinking, geez, it's awfully quiet, almost like nobody is screaming and running for their lives and people are doing things. And I mean, there were cameras taking pictures of this thing and everybody must be running for the hills unless he lasered everybody. But I don't know if it was as much as whole. And I was thinking, geez, that's awfully kind of surreal. And I mean, this is just another thing talking about how, I mean, this is well done. Watching this build up and then the switch back to know that he didn't do it. Because the first time I'm watching it, I'm going, I was kind of, it was one of these things. I'm going like, it felt like too early for him to lose it. And I was almost a little unbelieving of it. And then my unbelieving was paid off. And then I'm going like, oh, he wants to, but he's holding it in. He's going to snap sooner or later.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was well done. I mean, they're clearly building for a payoff where he does indeed snap, which is good. I mean, again, to all the problems from Game of Thrones, they're putting in the time to earn it with this guy, which is great. So, I mean, for me, that was a really good, effective scene in there. But, Nick, I mean, he ends up running to Stormfront later.
Oh, yeah.
No, not that much later.
Oh, yeah.
not
different kind of running in.
Not the last scene just yet. We'll get into that. But he of course, the first 4 episodes, he can't stand Stormfront, right? Because she's taken his spot. She's taken over the spotlight. She's putting herself out in front as the face of the 7. Mm-hmm. Despite we see lots of points where Homelander is talking to us about how he's the guy who's front and center on this thing. So her doing that, of course, is a problem. But then he goes to her for help. And I don't know, Nick, what'd you think about that mix with how she helps him out with his image there?
I was actually surprised they were gonna go there. I was just like, oh, okay, he's actually gonna go there, because to me, when I saw, especially when you watch all season 1 in its entirety, you see Homelander as this guy who doesn't bend. He's even everybody even thought Stillwell was his one slight weakness until he pushed that shit all the way and said, nope, she ain't no weakness either. So it was actually a surprising moment to see that he actually went to her. I was just like, okay, I actually did not see that coming. So I was good with it. It did feel organic, because especially since he was shoved to the side, especially when in the previous episode 3 when they're at that press conference and she looked his way and he's mad. You could see the salt mine building up in him. you took my damn spot. But now all of a sudden he's realizing, shit, I'm gonna look like a has-been, especially with all the memes coming out. That was great with the memes, by the way.
And she sent him to her meme queen, I thought that was a good touch. I laughed my ass off.
Yeah.
Yeah, it actually felt right. Like watching that scene, I'm like, and it makes me wonder, like how much is that gonna go with them being in line with each other? Like, I don't personally see that lasting forever, even though things escalate in some very wonderful ways, and I'd imagine, like, because Homelander, he's still at the end of the day, he's so into himself at the end of the day. And we all know why, for obvious reasons from the prior episode where, he saw himself because of Doppelganger and that whole. I actually thought that scene with Doppelganger, I thought that Homelander was going to, get the blowy on him.
Yeah.
I was like, I actually thought it was going to happen. I was actually kind of disappointed. I'm like, if you're going to be a nutty show, fucking go all the way with it. And so I was kind of disappointed, as weird as it would have been.
Maybe they're telling us that he's self-hating.
Hey, no, that's true. It's possible.
I don't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, by not having that scene play all the way out, maybe that was a message to us. But now I know that I think, to Lord Thoth's point, when he's
Lord Thoth. Hail, Lord Thoth. Hail.
Oh boy, oh boy. I've had a thought about where they may ultimately be going with Stormfront, and I will be very curious if this plays out. Now we know Stormfront was gender swapped for the show. Stormfront was a male character in the books, and from interviews with Kripke, they've told us that they've told us that he did that very intentionally to be a foil and a counter for Homelander. And what better way would there be to truly, really nail Homelander than to have Stormfront be trans?
The John Wayne American figure of yesteryear losing out to the trans. Oh man.
I mean, right. So this is, I mean, if your whole point with the character is to embarrass, scare, and humiliate Homelander, is there anything that would hit it better than that being the case about Stormfront, especially when you take into account the last couple of minutes of episode 5?
I don't know, man. Go ahead.
I mean, the question is, are they indeed being genuine for a wide audience, or did they really take up and they're gonna slam us with the woke at the end?
It's possible. I will not put it past, in 2020 standards, I will not put it past them to get super woke at the very 0 hour. I could see it happening, but I'm actually surprised more than halfway it hasn't become like super that way. Like the fact that they're actually like joking about it and making fun of it is actually one of the biggest shocks to me, because the fact that actually got through Amazon, like I was just like, holy shit, really? They're actually making fun of this? I thought this was not going to fly, and this show had been like, cancel it. Nope, we can't have that in the show. We got to promote wokeness.
Yeah, I mean, same with you, Nick. I gotta give them some very serious credit for having been, I don't know if self-aware is the right term, or just irreverent and full of satire. I'm not even sure what the right word is.
I think satire is a very relevant word. Satire definitely is one of the right words for it.
Yeah.
The material is satirical. That's the very nature of it. The thing is that I think just a point in Kripke's favor is that he is writing satire, and as Lord Thoth mentioned here about this is fully off the book. This is like he can take this whatever direction that he wants. The book is now just the source of the characters and the source of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he can do this, but for all the things that are said in various extra media, it's the biggest issues with it are what he did to certain characters and certain themes that started out in the books that didn't make it into the show that are less satisfying. I mean, this is the big thing is that who were these characters in the books and where are they now? Well, they're off the rails. But can Kripke continue to produce satisfying, and instead of being just full on platforming with the material, taking it and just checking the boxes and making sure all that stuff and satisfying solely the story points, can he continue to tell at least an interesting story? I mean, it's like we know about the material. This is there isn't a whole lot of love here. Matter of fact, it has already been said in some live streams. It's more coming from a place of hate. But the thing is that I'm not fully blown away by his ability. I'm not fully blown away by his use of the material to tell those stories, to tell those points yet. And I'm hoping it continues to be a satisfactory story. More than anything, take it right to the end and just continue to tell a satisfactory story. Because satisfactory is better than most of the stuff we've been getting so far, and that's part of the problem, isn't it? We haven't even been getting anything.
Yeah. I mean,
well, we've been getting some things. We've been getting Joker. That was one case of the things, and
I mean, you make a fair
even that
point.
had its issues. Even that has its issues.
The aging issue. Anyone notice that with the aging issue? Like, Joaquin Phoenix is like 50 something, and I was just like, so when Bruce Wayne becomes Batman, Joker will be on crutches or on a walker or something.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a nitpick on my end, but it's just maybe because I'm so deep in the Batman lore, just like I can't help but think that
it's not a nitpick if it interferes with telling the story. But the thing is that there's plenty of ways you can take that now. Like, is he actually the Joker, or is he an inspiration? I mean, they could screw that up in the next. They could screw that up in the next movie if they decide to run with it.
There are
try to make money.
Rumors. There's a lot of rumors going around about Warner Brothers backing a truckload of money up to Joaquin Phoenix's house.
And sure. Throw money at him, get him to do it again, and fuck up the wonderful groundwork is laid. I mean,
I do
calling it
not
wonderful.
want them. They should not do a sequel to that.
I agree.
No.
100%. Don't do it. We just give us something else. Like, what? How about a movie on The Question? I mean, he's a very grounded story too. If I'm assuming you guys know The Question, you know, Vic Sage. I mean, he's grounded, so he can do that with Joker. We won't have to worry much about special effects. You can get detective mode as well on top of it, and you know, you can go to. There's source material to look back on. You can't say there's a shortage there. Like, it's out there. Denny O'Neil, Bill Sienkiewicz, like they've done stuff for them. So, I mean, for Vic Sage, sorry. And as long as they do Vic Sage too, like that's a big thing for me is having the actual Question.
And see, I got to profess my ignorance on The Question, Nick.
Okay.
When I was into the books, I was mainly a Marvel guy and just kind of the real highlights on the DC stuff. So I'm not familiar with The Question. I mean, you give me a little background?
I mean, seriously, like he's definitely like he's straight up like a detective. He's not really powered. Like he's got this like that weird like mask thing where like it doesn't show his eyes. Like he solves cases. He solves
Okay.
cases. He's basically he's a human being. Like he's a human being. That's really all there is to it. But he's had really dark stories, and that's once again Joker, dark, grounded. We don't have to worry about money with special effects too. I see someone made Lord Thought mention about the female version. God, what's her name again? That girl, she was in Birds of Prey. Lord Thoth, refresh me. What's her name? I forget she became the Question. I forget she became that. But yeah, Question had a good episode on Justice League Unlimited back in like 2000, 2001. And they really nailed his character. Huntress, I think, was in the episode too. It's been a long damn time. But if you got the DCU app, it's a solid episode. And you can really see like it. He's not far out of line with Batman. Obviously, he doesn't have the gadgets, but he's super knowledgeable guy. I mean, does this not also like a setup for an original movie where they don't have to spend a lot of money and just get a good A-list actor done? Oh yeah, Renee Montoya, that's her name. Thank you, Lord Thoth.
Lord Thoth brings up a good point where he says the Question's not a terribly recognizable character.
Nope.
And I mean, frankly, highlighting my own ignorance where I had to ask you who the hell it was.
Yeah, it's all good.
Right. But at the same time, I mean, maybe not as good an analog to Iron Man because, I mean, I didn't read any Iron Man books and I wasn't particularly an Avengers fan when I was collecting, but I did at least know who Iron Man was, and he's who kicked off the MCU.
Yeah.
But
don't forget Guardians too, not to cut you off, but yeah, that was a super unknown property, and look at that took off.
Oh God! So I mean, to that point, I mean, if you do it right, you can take someone who's not really known, like the Question, and you can make them A-list. But you got to have a creative team who is, dedicated, understanding, and talented. That old people of talent adage, right? It's you need a real creative team, not just a bunch of repurposers to put something like that up there and make it work.
Yeah, no, that's true. You got to have the right, like I said, the right creative team. It's kind of like a comic book too. Like I've seen characters who I didn't like before, whether it was Marvel or DC, where I didn't initially like them, but with the right writer and of course art, because I mean, at least I'm a big art guy because some books are hard to read when the art's that bad. But under the right writer, a character can be a good character. Like, I mean, maybe you may not be a fan of it, or you might be, but I didn't really dig Aquaman until I read Jeff Johns' New 52 run, and I wasn't really a big fan of New 52 in general, but his Aquaman run really nailed the character, and then lo and behold, it became a basis for what was to become the 2018 movie that did so well, which is funny because they're like movies with men and who are white and masculine don't sell, and yet that was one of the biggest movies of that year. So whether, like I said, whether we liked it or not, we can't deny it was super successful.
You get your leading men out there and you put them in a movie that's at least good. They don't have to be great. They don't have to be timeless, just good, right?
Yeah. Oh, of course.
A decent production quality and a good script, reasonable editing, and solid score. That's important. You need to have very good music. But you put
not to mention you can be short on any number of those things as long as you have the good assembly as well. You bring it all together, you have a vision, and everything builds up the weaknesses in the other parts. Absolutely.
And then you put that all together with a major leading man and you can have a solid action movie, right? You put your Dwayne Johnsons in there, you put your Jason Momoas, you put your Stathams, guys like that. You get those as the front guy for some type of action movie and you make it work. And it doesn't have to be one of those named guys. You can get somebody with the same kind of talent who's new. I mean, hell, not every one of us always knew those names.
But if you get someone new, then you're putting that person through casting and making the decision because you're looking for someone that has the gravitas to carry a leading role. And that's going to be the person that, if you're going to do that, that's going to be the person that you're basing this stuff on. I mean, that's one reason why I like, and the name fled my Ant-Man.
Oh, Paul Rudd.
Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd.
Love Paul Rudd.
Excellent choice for Ant-Man. That role, Paul Rudd was in. He already had credits.
Yep.
So the thing is that he came from something. But the thing is that you're putting him into this. You're putting him into this role where he's going to be given the suit. He's going to be given the special. By the way, Paul Rudd does not have powers.
No. Wait.
Oh yeah, because he'll never age.
This is just topical mentioning that because someone doesn't know that should before they say something.
Oh God. If anybody's missed it, what Draco's talking about is there's an interview came out with the director of the Black Widow movie. Oh. And she was talking about what makes her movie so special. And in particular, she really emphasized the fact that Black Widow was the only Avenger with no powers.
Pathological liar.
All right, could just be that she's a complete idiot.
Or no, the two can be synonymous with one another. But man, hello, thanks for ignoring Hawkeye again. Thanks, appreciate that.
Or for that matter, Iron Man.
Yeah, true. Iron Man, true.
Falcon.
Yeah. Oh man, what? And here she is. She does not know the MCU.
War Machine.
Yeah. Oh, see, look at you. You just named off all these characters just like that, and yet here she is. That's the only one that's not powered, lady. Please.
There's more of them without powers using tech than there are with powers.
And that's fine. They're as long as you make the characters interesting, that's all that matters. They don't have to have powers to be good. I mean, obviously, we all know who Batman is and how well that has translated for DC. He's basically a DC savior at times, for better or worse. For better or worse, he's their savior.
I'm going to miss Batfleck. I really am. I hated the casting when it was announced. I
did too.
I was like, are you kidding? Ben Affleck? No, I hated it.
I already knew the flack that they got for playing Daredevil.
Yes, yeah, and I just there was no way in my head this is the worst Batman casting. It was going to be awful, and he was the highlight of every one of those damn movies he was in. He was an amazing Bruce Wayne. He was good as the Batman. I couldn't believe it.
A little funny, but the guy he rolled all over that role. He was the Batman. I know some people don't like this particular characterization, but I know there is at least some flavor from a comic adaptation that this is one of the most solid representations we've got to see.
Oh yeah,
written a little funny, but yes.
Yeah. It worked in service of the Bruce Wayne part, especially where him and personally, I'm not into the movies as a whole that Zack Snyder did, but I will agree I did enjoy Ben Affleck as Batman, especially that scene where Clark and Bruce meet. That was a very well written conversation. The two acted those parts incredible. That was a great first meeting. That I'm kind of now mad. I probably would have appreciated the movie a little bit more had that scene not be put in the trailers, because that scene was so damn good. I'm like, man, that's a good scene. It really sold me on it. And then when he becomes Batman, you really feel and believe the transformation, because he's supposed to feel like the whole playboy guy who's super outgoing and then transformed into dark and brooding. Because really, it's Bruce Wayne is Batman, not Batman's Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne's the guys.
Yeah, right. And yes. I mean, say what you want about Affleck, especially the Pearl Harbor. Oh my God, one of the worst movies ever made. But man, he was Bruce Wayne. And apparently we do get to see him at least one more time in the new Flash movie, so that's cool.
Should have just called it a Batman movie.
Yeah, along with Michael Keaton.
Yeah, right. Just call it a Batman movie. Just call it a Batman. I love the Flash, but come on, just call it a Batman movie at this point. Flash Bat.
Yeah.
Flash. those days.
The Batman. I don't know.
Yeah, Batman. Oh my fucking God.
Oh Christ, man! So let's transition a little bit. We've already started getting into like the rumorville, but I want to hit.
I did that. That's my fault.
I have no problem
Worth
with
it.
that.
Yeah, worth it.
Dude, these
Do it
fun
again.
little rabbit holes. This is what fandom is about, man. You go off. We could have gone off on that tangent for another hour, and we wouldn't have even noticed. I mean, but the Mandalorian. So to set the stage for anybody watching who may not be familiar, several scoopers, starting with Grace Randolph, lover or hater, she's gotten a lot of stuff right. She's missed the mark on some things also, as with anybody who's a Hollywood scooper, but she's gotten more right than she's gotten wrong. And the basic summary of what she said is that there was a lot of tension between Pascal and Favreau. And it's centered around Pascal wanting his face shown more than anything else. And because Favreau said, no, this is what you signed up for, this is who the character is, and this is how he works, that apparently Pascal went over Favreau's head. Now, that can basically only mean two people, Kathleen Kennedy and Bob Iger. That's it. There really isn't anybody else higher than Favreau on that food chain. So he went to one of those two people, or perhaps both. And this would have been roughly midway through filming, which puts it in the, late November timeframe, give or take, last year. And reportedly, Favreau told him to take a hike after going over his head. So, and Randolph's scoop is that the show is going to take a pretty radical change about midway through, and we're going to see a shift in tone and approach and presentation, which ties right into an interview that Favreau gave a few weeks ago. Right? So Favreau gave an interview where he talked about how this is going to be a wider, deeper show that's going to be more of a Game of Thrones approach to storytelling. So
Called The Mandalorian.
Yeah, right. Called The Mandalorian. Oh, what did they do?
Right.
I'll let Draco go.
Now, there's one more piece to kind of the environment that is this rumor, and that is the reason I brought up the time frame about when Pascal must have walked out of the show. When did you all first hear the rumor about Tamura Morrison joining the show? Do you remember?
I don't have an exact date.
That may have slipped past me. Even though I knew right about Sasha Banks, Rosario Dawson, that one slipped past me. Even Bill Burr, I knew about.
I heard about possibly having Boba Fett in the show months ago. I can't even place it in time anymore.
I want to say it was roughly the November time frame that those rumblings started coming out.
Because hearing about Tamura Morrison has been far more recent.
Yeah,
and that to me is just, that is either confirmation of there being a clone or Boba Fett, or actually having him in the show, actually having a character there, or using it for some kind of background or history. But
yeah,
there has been. I mean, I'm just throwing ideas at the board here because we really have nothing to go on that's absolute.
This is rumor, speculationville. This is fans thinking.
Fandom.
So could it be actually putting the character? I mean, everybody. There's a lot of love. There's a lot of love for the Boba Fett character, for someone who is just a notable scene. So much love for the character that he was added to two of the original movies that he wasn't. Well, one of the original movies that he wasn't originally in, and then added a bit more scenery for him in the updates to the special editions.
Yeah.
But the history on him went even further in the extended universe.
It did.
And now I'd be more than accepting of that he would be in the world somehow getting out of the Sarlacc, but this leads to that idea of bringing up, okay, who or what is the Mandalorian about now?
Yeah.
And is that going to change? How much is it going to change? Is it going to be meaningful? I mean, the entire first season, the closest thing to identify with the Mandalorian was one character.
It was the armor.
Now we might
was Pascal. It was Din Djarin, the one guy.
And I mean, we did have him help out by several other Mandalorians in the course of that story. So that at least, I mean, that did open up the world somewhat. And we do know that there's a reason, there's something that happens to the Mandalorians in the extended universe, which is still considered legends. And it can be mined, but yes, I would like to see an interesting tale of Boba Fett. Or I would like to see an interesting history of Boba Fett. I mean, I put my thinking cap on and I come up with an idea that what if the very reason that our non-Mandalorian may have been affected by meeting Boba Fett or something like that, or that something is going to change in his existence because Boba Fett, who has survived, is important to his future in some way.
Yeah.
Theory.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, 100% just rumors, theory, speculation, chat, shit that
I'm fully on speculating now.
So Tamura is reportedly in the show. And I remember hearing the rumors that Boba was going to be in, roughly if Pascal really walked off and got told to take a hike. We know that that's roughly a late November timeframe, which for me, that's roughly when I remember hearing rumors about Boba being in the show. Ballparkish, right? Same general area. And we get a confirmation that not only is Boba in the show, but it's Tamura Morrison at February-ish timeframe, somewhere in that neighborhood.
That would have been before I heard about it.
Yeah, maybe March, right? So it's in that neighborhood, sort of really late winter, early spring is when we started hearing that Tamura's in the show. So
could really use receipts. Sorry.
Yeah. Well,
I was looking for some, but go ahead.
Yeah. So you take all that together, and what if the switch that they're pulling is something happens to Din Djarin and they're bringing in Boba? We'll see, right? We find out here in a few weeks when the show starts.
Yeah.
This is me going to speculation town. It's not even a rumor. It's just me playing around.
Having fun with what we've heard.
Yeah, because then you still got a Mandalorian potentially as the lead.
Yeah, potentially is a very troubling word because I mean, hey, if you can name another show or where it was multiple seasons where they had a main character and then all of a sudden the main character is no longer the main character, I can't think of many. I mean, maybe I'm just having trouble.
Season 1.
I never completed Game of Thrones, so
season 1.
Go on.
I mean, wouldn't you say that Ned Stark is the lead character of Game of Thrones?
Ned?
Yeah, the first.
Yeah, oh yeah. It's been a bit, but yeah. No, I know where you're coming from. Yeah, it just seems like such a random element for Star. Maybe for me, for Star Wars, that's such a random element because like when you had Clone Wars, you had Ahsoka, Anakin, and then you had some episodes where they kind of showcase other things. But at the end of the day, it still ultimately came back to them. And then Rebels, you had Zeb, Kanan, Sabine.
Ezra
Bridger, and that crazy droid, who I thought was personally hilarious, but that that withstanding, every one of these things had its main characters. I'd just be really weird. Like season 1 really set it as a story of Din Djarin, and all of a sudden we're just gonna toss it out. But hey, if it works out where it feels organic, it could be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? There is an opportunity here, and I mean, Favreau's talking about wanting to tell a bigger story that's more of an ensemble as opposed to, Pascal and the Mandalorian in as the lead. So I mean, here's the thought: if that's really your future and what you're wanting to do with your storytelling, do you stick with the branding of the Mandalorian?
To me, you shouldn't, because at what point is it no longer the Mandalorian?
Yes.
I'm all for spin-offs and such. I mean, especially if they're really well written. But at one point, it's just like, yeah, okay, I get the idea of an ensemble. You want to build something. You realize you got something with a TV universe. It's not divided like the movie audience, which is good. But then it's just like, okay, expand the story. But at one point, is it no longer the Mandalorian? Unless they continue to stick with an individual Mandalorian every season, 2 season, half season, etc., etc.
I don't know. God, that's interesting. My mind hadn't even gone that direction.
I think a lot. I think way too much.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Before I go to bed, it's in our nature.
Before I go to bed,
Indeed.
When's it no longer the Mando?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just if you're going to go to an ensemble storytelling approach, which I don't think is a bad idea. Don't misunderstand. If you can make that work in a Star Wars universe, that could be a lot of fucking fun, right? I mean, it could be very enjoyable. It could be some really cool stuff. You bring in your scoundrels, you bring in your soldier type folks, you bring in a Force sensitive or two, and you tell a wider story. That could be very epic if done right. But yeah, it's not the Mandalorian anymore, though, is it?
I agree. Yeah, like I said, at that point, it's not the Mandalorian.
Yeah, and we're hearing that Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka's going to be in this thing, although Disney themselves still haven't confirmed that.
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
That she's cast, they haven't even confirmed it, much less whether she's actually in the show. Although I'm assuming she is, right?
But we do have that reasonably good proof from the preview of a character possibly playing Sabine Wren and the
Sasha
WWF.
Banks. Yeah, Sasha Banks.
Sasha Banks.
That's the one. So there is at least that. Well, the thing is that does lead me in the idea of, well, they could be doing this. They could be doing this with Ahsoka or something like that. And I really see solid reasoning for them to. Well, we've got some. I don't know if this is something I heard. It's probably something I heard. That we've got some goodwill. This is Disney. We've got some goodwill. We've got some opportunities. Let's see if we can spin this out a little bit more. Yeah. Let's see if we can see how much and.
Be right
just
back,
like
guys.
You mentioned Nickweiser. Okay. I was just going to say, just like Nickweiser mentioned that the spin-offs might be the way that they're going to play this, that they've got a base and they can go out from there and they can make something more of it. Because if you start doing that within the show that is the Mandalorian, then the branding doesn't mean as much anymore. And it might be a small thing, but it depends upon where the hearts and minds of your new fans, your new base of fans. Not everybody is hanging on to the child, Baby Yoda. Not everybody is hanging on to Mando because of other things, but
yeah,
if they can still push it forward.
For me. I mean, I think that Nick brought up a good point where he asked the question, when is this, at what point is this no longer the Mandalorian? And I don't think you can push an ensemble show and keep that branding. So,
Yes.
but how do you
That
transition?
point is
Right? How do you transition that in your
well, if you
marketing?
wanted to end the Mandalorian in its second season,
You'd kind of have to, right? But then where
that
do you
would be
go?
the thing. Then you branch out into other shows, whether or not they'd be successful. I mean, using the show solely as a launching point, but then you lose the goodwill that the show engendered. It loses that opportunity, that momentum that it started with,
Yeah,
lost again.
perhaps. I mean, if you mark it right, of course, assume season 2, hits Disney Plus and it's successful and it builds on its goodwill, which I think is still in question, but we'll see. I do trust Favreau more than many other creatives.
Oh, by a landslide.
Yeah, I give him a lot more credit than, I'm watching Kripke like a hawk.
As you should.
Right?
As you should.
I'm watching him like a hawk.
Don't stop.
Man,
Favreau, I just kind of give a sideways glance every now and then just to, make sure he hasn't, pulled out a knife to shank me with. Right? But you only need to look at him like, once every 5 minutes or so, whereas Kripke, you keep him in front of you because you don't trust him to be behind you because he'd stick you in the back, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But so, Favreau, okay, yeah, you want to go over there, do your thing. I'm good. I'm just gonna, make sure you're not lagging behind every now and then.
Keep in check with him. We're on to you, John. We're optimistic, but we're just gonna keep a cautiously optimistic eye on you. It's nothing personal. We like you. We do. You're not Kathleen. Thank you for not being her, but we're fans, and it seems like you're an actual fan too. We just want to make sure you're still with us.
Yes, exactly. It's one of the things that Draco and I have talked about on previous streams that I think it's worth pointing out and bringing up, Nick, is Favreau and the trust that we have for him versus, say, the distrust that we have for, say, a Kathleen Kennedy, Ryan Johnson, these types of guys. It has nothing to do with the politics. It's not an ist. It's not an ism like what we get accused of. So, it is not a political thing. And that's what most of the people who dismiss our arguments try to make it, right?
Oh yeah. They dismiss that argument because they don't want to be challenged.
Politics in the world.
They don't want to be challenged.
Yeah. One of the things I like to point out is Favreau, not only was he a political speechwriter, but he was one of the best political speechwriters of all time for Barack Obama.
Yes, he was. And that's fine. He could do that. If he wants to do that all he wants, he can. It's not going to change how I see him doing Star Wars.
Bingo. Because he's making Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. He's separating the two. He's letting the art be the art, and then he can let the politics be the politics. He's not having the two intertwine with one another to say, hey, let's make this a lecture. Like, I get when you have like political themes, because there's movies out there that have been out there for a long time with political themes, and that's fine because those are political movies. But everyone, when people try to use the whole everything is political, it's just like, bro, don't even go there. So you're gonna start saying when you buy like Pepsodent or Colgate, that's a political decision too. Like, that's how crazy
you buy
everything.
Pepsodent?
Oh,
you Nazi!
Alt-right is phobe. What's the new ism this week, guys? Do you know about the new ism?
I can't keep up.
Yeah, right. Oh, God, it's so exhausting. They don't want they don't want their lack of conviction challenged because they need it to be true no matter how false it is. But to them, as long as it's true in their heads, they're good with that. They're really good with that. And that's such a toxic mentality to have.
Oh, God, yes. The only toxic is coming from the people screaming at us that we're toxic.
I know the irony of it. The irony of it. Like, I have nothing against Daisy Ridley. I honestly like. I kind even though I'm not a fan of her character at all, I feel, and you know, she was the total Mary Sue, but maybe
It's not Daisy's fault.
No, it's not. It's terrible
No.
writing. It's terrible, abysmal ass writing. It's just like, guys, what are you doing with this character? She came into the show, or sorry, movie as a developed character. What's a hero's journey? Doesn't exist.
You know, oh God. And we beat over this so often, but they did Finn so dirty.
Oh, don't even get me started. I mean, get me started. Go ahead. I don't care.
I mean, it's just the premise of who he was could have been so good.
Oh,
so good.
It should have been.
Brainwashed from childhood, you know, strict adherence to the military discipline of the Empire, breaking out of it through his presumed force sensitivity and rising to become a leader against the galactic oppression, and learning to use the force to do. What a great goddamn story that would make.
No, it was the one thing that
No. We're going to have him a janitor. He's going to follow around Rey. He's going to be her puppy and always looking for her because I need to find Rey.
You know, it bugs me out because, like, with Finn's character, I've had this complaint for years that, and I'm sure that you've heard this comment, like water being wet and the snow being white, is that Force Awakens is A New Hope remade, but Finn's character arc was the one thing that made it go from 100% to like 95%, like full on replica, because there wasn't a character who just defected from the dark side or, you know, the First Order to join the good side. That wasn't in A New Hope. It was that one element that was like, okay, that was not taken, and it was actually something that was a first. And they actually set him up for what looked to be a cool rivalry with Phasma. And not only did he get shafted, the rivalry and her altogether got shafted. Like, all around waste of time and money. Go on, guys.
I mean, they just didn't know what the hell to do with him, right? It was a travesty to what could have been a great story. Like, some of the pieces were there, and I think it was, didn't The Drinker put out The Drinker Fixes The Force Awakens?
Oh, did he? I've not seen that. Now I need to.
I'm pretty. He did one for Last Jedi. I'm pretty sure he did one for TFA also. And God, that guy is so talented. Anybody who's watching this, if you don't follow The Critical Drinker, go sub now, because that dude is something else.
Yeah, he is. Love him.
Yes,
Love him. Love him.
And he talked about a lot of these things that we've been saying in the Fandom Menace for years, when he's running through that about how to fix these things. And they need that guy writing genre. They desperately. Hollywood, you need to call The Critical Drinker. I for real.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The Drinker Fixes does not. It's basically he's been fixing particular characters, and there's only 4 of those so far. But maybe he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
Maybe if we're lucky, we'll have a Comicsgate equivalent of movies in Hollywood. You know, we're gonna need it.
The trouble is the money it takes.
Oh yeah, biggest one by far and large.
You know, you can do a Comicsgate in comics because you can, for what costs you do have, you can crowdfund.
Yep.
And but the creative team putting the story together and building up the artwork and this kind of stuff, those pieces, the people who are behind the book tend to also be the talent, right? So other than their time, most of that stuff is low expense.
Yep.
But your production costs, your mailing, your distro, your
marketing,
those things, of course, take money, but not the kind of money it takes to produce a movie. And that's the biggest hurdle, is the barrier to entry on video production, at least, television and film. I mean, it's the barrier to entry it's massive. The type of cash you have to produce, even a low quality movie is, millions of dollars, tens of millions. It's not like, you can fund a comic book, maybe with 10 grand of your own scratch, and then bring in whatever else there is from the crowdfunding. But where, a movie, I mean, I don't have that kind of money lying around. I wish to hell I do. Wish to hell I did.
Right.
That's why they refer to it as a production, and why a producer is a thing that you need for such an endeavor.
True.
A producer, or a whole gang of them. Some people look at the producer credits on movies and television shows and say, what did all those people do? Made it possible.
Wrote
They
checks,
actually
is that what
committed.
you're saying? Yeah.
Well, there was a reason that producers got producer credits, and sometimes, you could say that producers don't always do the full thing that they get credit for, or they do a particular thing. They're basically
Sometimes all they do is
they grease the wheels, right?
Sometimes they just exist by name.
Sometimes they do.
Sometimes all they do is make good coffee also, so
We have heard this. It is a theory that some people have, and it may very well be absolute truth. But there's also the people that arrange that arrange the locations and sets. There's people that, I mean, these are just like making things happen. This is how you do stuff in the business. Not even I wouldn't even presume to be someone who knows all of these particulars, but just think of what you have to do to make a movie. And not only do you have to get that money together, and I'm sure that there's a lot of producers, they're just money people. They know how to get money from people, but there's people who know how to get resources. There's people who know how to get locations. There's people who know how to get people together to put on a production, because you got to feed and water them. You got to put them up. You've got to make sure they're paid so that they keep doing it. That's a lot of production.
You just put some very interesting images in my head when you talked about feeding and watering.
Feeding and watering the people? Yes. I don't know where your mind goes sometimes, Mr. Jake D.
Man, our minds have been in wonderful places, say, from Neurotic Stream to now. It all started with BBC and Peacock, and now here we are. We're just not gonna let up.
Who are these people I'm with? I don't know what I've done to deserve this.
You're too late.
Why? Who am I to be in this?
You've already fallen down.
I must belong here.
Now you're stuck. You're stuck here now, dude. You're fucked now. You're fucked now. Enjoy your
made
water.
My own bed. Must sleep in it.
Oh,
Apparently.
Oh shit.
Oh Christ, man. It's this right here. This is what fans and fandom does, right? And all this kind of weird, only semi-related at best talk that we've been going through. This is really the perfect example of why some of these crazy ass rumors get legs. Right? I mean, this conversation right here is, it's exhibit A as to why some of this sometimes crazy stuff gets moving. And everything that's happening in this conversation is built on, it's a love of the art, it's a love of the material, and it's a love of the experience, and not just watching it on your small screen or going to the theater and catching it up on the silver screen, but it's a love of all of those things related to entertainment. And we start seeing, you build a personal connection, right? And it's, Draco, what do you remember most about Star Wars as a kid?
I remember going to see the first movie after 2 weeks because I was only 6 and I didn't know what it was, but it was big and crazy making and marvelous. And then I could not wait to see in 1980 when Empire came out. And then, wait, he's father? I don't even understand that. And then Jedi came out when I was 13, and I was so fully into it, I didn't care if it was a good movie or not. Maybe that's what they wanted. But I so loved the original Star Wars trilogy. And I loved it for so many reasons. And I continued to love it.
What about you, Nick? What were your first memories of Star Wars as a kid?
Oh, I remember when. I mean, it's one of those things where, when you witness something of a spectacle of that magnitude of scale, especially for that time, it was, light years, like no pun intended or pun intended. It was just like, I remember, God, I'm trying to think. I was around 8 or 9, and I was living in Berwyn, town of Svengoolie, and just seeing it on a TV during the age of the bubble TV, and just being blown away by all these characters and this action and these weird looking creatures. I was taking a lot in as an 8-year-old, but I didn't care. I was just like, I kind of know what's going on, but I kind of don't, but I don't care because this is all freaking awesome, man. Then the special editions are coming out around 1997. So 9-year-old me, it was just like, I have to see them in a theater, even though I had just watched it relentlessly on good old VHS. And of course I do. I went and saw them at a time where you could just be a kid and go out and I have to worry about parent and just go out and see a movie at 9, 10. Nowadays that don't happen in 2020, but in the 90s it was a different time, obviously. So it was nice to be able to see those movies in a theater. And I remember feeling the different experience of that from countless views on VHS, still loving it even more.
Now this is cool. Okay, this is interesting. So my first memories of Star Wars as a kid, I remember Jedi. Okay, and I remember my first most crystal clear memories of it were buying merch from the Scholastic book orders.
Pizza Hut.
I don't know, probably second grade or something like that is when I remember this. And what's really cool is some of the things that I just heard from the two of you is we are the three of us vastly different ages. Draco, you got about 10 years on me. I got about 10 years on Nick. Roughly, right? I mean, ballpark.
Yeah.
How did that work out?
and the three of us, all other things being equal, people this far spread apart across the country and across age groups are never going to be likely to encounter each other and establish friendships outside of some big thing like this that brings us together and bridges those gaps. Every one of us has this special places in our hearts for this, particularly the original Star Wars trilogy of movies. And we come from vastly different backgrounds. We come from vastly different areas of the country and at vastly different times. Because I can tell you right now, 1970 was a hell of a lot different than 1980, was a hell of a lot different than 1990. Okay, and only one of us.
I don't know. I wasn't around at that time.
only one of us comes close to remembering all three of those years.
Gary was at least Gary had at least a year
on you
at that time. Well, he was around 69. He was around 69. He was doing what babies do in 1970. Well, yes. several month old.
Yeah, right. So the point is though is this type of unifying force is what these things used to be, and each one of us has developed this really deep place within us where this was so special and important to us for a number of reasons. We've all got our first memories about these various different franchises, particularly in the genre that we just fucking love. And when you've got something like that sort of deep within you, and you've developed that, for lack of a better word, devotion to it, right? That's why when you see things like this crazy ass Gillian Anderson Doctor Who rumor, so Noel over at the TARDIS Zone dropped this rumor. I love Noel, but I think he's crazy on this. Okay, and Noel is a good guy. I like his stuff, but this rumor, I don't buy it for a minute. But and I think a lot of people reacted that way. But then Svi Levetkin, the rabbi from another planet, picks up Noel's rumor and he starts talking about it. And despite him saying he didn't believe it either, he ran a video on this. And this thing's starting to get legs, right? And it's picking up legs because there is a wounded fan base. There's people that have this deep experiential attachment to the property that want it to be what it once was. And when you're in a position where it's just not that thing that you love anymore, you are willing to grab onto the craziest shit just because you think it might show you a sliver of hope.
Yep.
Yes.
Guilty as charged.
Even more than wanting it to be what it once was, they want what once was to matter. And this is something that has happened in this material, that what once was, a lot has been being done to, as I mentioned in the stream, to poison those things. It's interesting that toxic is one of those words that you hear so often used by children to decry things that are bad, but toxicity is also a condition that if you have a healthy thing and you apply the poison, you apply the toxicity, parts of it start dying and it may eventually be dead.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Once you do certain things that have been done to these genres, without doing a significant, do a blood transfusion, which in medical terms is a huge thing, a complete blood resourcing or something like that. Just the idea of doing that on the scope of what you'd have to do in writing, you might never have that thing back again up to full strength because a lot of it is probably dead and will not heal. By the very same token, wounded fandoms that have had these things poisoned in them. Some of those people will hang out because they love it so much, even in the pain and even in the suffering of what has been done to those things, they will grasp on all the harder and saying, please stop doing this to the property that I love. Some will walk away, never to come back, because there will always be, this is what it was, this is what it is now, and these two just don't mesh, and I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
How can you do that? Now, what do you have to do to bring those things back? There are methods. All genre has crazy things. Comic books has shown the way so many times. I wasn't long with comic books like Gary was. I read a few of my brother's comic books, and I finally started collecting my own rather later in life. But the number of ways that I've seen just come up with a reasonably plausible story to connect something from here to there, it kind of goes together. Okay, we'll accept it and we'll carry on. And then sometimes you even wrap vast mysteries around these things to make it real. But to do that in other media, especially in media that is not just supported by rabid fan base or a group of geeks or something, or nerds that are all into it, or just passionate fans. What you really need in those things is you want to help other people get interested into it. You want those nerds and geeks and rabid fans talking about it to their friends, so that producers can convince people that we can make money if we do this. And is that even going to be a thing? I mean, this is like a whole subject for another time to start getting into. Can these certain genres look forward into the future at the possibility of making a production that will be a reason for them to do it? Or are we just going to go off into independent, where this is where the true innovation is now? You can speak on that.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think there, Nick? What's your take on that? Give me a reaction.
I got a lot here. So no, and I agree with the both of you. I really do. It's funny when we mention how we hold on to these things like so deeply, and how comic books. Draco, thank you for mentioning how comic books. You guys both mentioned how comic books is a good example on how things are tested in the waters, and Spider-Man. Like, I don't know how well you guys know the comic books, but I'm going to give you a good, strong example. Way back in like 80s, they had Peter Parker, Mary Jane get married. And then around mid 2000s, they had Peter Parker do this deal with the devil equivalent of Marvel named Mephisto to undo their marriage to save Aunt May. And it undid away like 2 decades worth of continuity.
Is this that One More Day story?
Yeah, brand new day, one more day, brand new day. And it pissed off so many fans. And then I get it. Like, you're invested in something for so long, and all of a sudden for them to just undo and trash that away. I always say, it's one thing if they did like a divorce, that's fine. Divorces do happen, especially considering that Marvel wants these characters to be quote unquote relatable. But to just undo all that after all those years, it wasn't like one of those 1 year status quos where it's like, oh, it's a status quo. But then the more things change, the more they stay the same. This was a legit thing that stuck around no matter how many writers Spider-Man burned through over time. And they lost a lot of fans who came in every 2 to 3 weeks to their local comic shop on Wednesday. And the current writer, like, I'm aware of what's going on currently in Marvel, has been trying to like slowly undo that, which is great. But the thing is, no matter how much of that you undo, it'll never be what it once was. Yeah, I do know some people who've come back, but I also know many people who just won't do it again because the stigma carries on. And now we're seeing that happen with Star Wars, Star Trek even. And I will not be surprised if the MCU is very next in line to be one of those things. Because there are people who love like most of what they've done, but even those people who've told me they're starting to become skeptical where this direction is going to. And that's saying something for people who are very loyalist to that MCU. So yeah, it'll never be what it once was. And that's the part we're scared of, especially for something we hold so dearly, because it's kind of like the whole like bad boyfriend or girlfriend who comes in your life like, oh, that's a really nice thing. You're a nice person, but here, let me change who you are. That's the equivalent of that with people who come into fandom and want to change everything we love about it to make it about them, that narcissism.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that, another example of that, and one of the ones that hits me real hard is this Timeless Children thing that they did in Doctor Who. Mm-hmm. And to your point about the One More Day storyline, basically just wiping out all kinds of history with Spider-Man.
Yeah, I'm aware.
I am thankful that I checked out of the Spider-Man comics just before that happened.
Yeah, that was a good idea to do that, because that was a good portion of that run that I enjoyed from Straczynski. I really enjoyed his run up until that, but he's been very vocal since then about how much I don't know if he's telling the truth or he's lying. Sorry if I cut you off, but it's just one of those things that came out. Straczynski is saying he was not about that direction. That was his last book that had his name attached to it before they had like a revolving door of writers, Dan Slott, Mark Waid, et cetera, et cetera. They were putting out the book like 3 times a month to recover for the losses from the Straczynski era, which was originally at the time very well received, and to this day is still mostly well received, minus that portion.
Yeah, and That same thing you're talking about, though, about how, and I've heard Gary talk about this on his channel. He was running the comic shop at the time, and people just they canceled every Spider-Man sub they had, and that was the exact same thing that that just happened to Doctor Who. I mean, the Timeless Children thing that occurred there. It really is like a perfect analog to what happened with One More Day. You wipe everything out, and everything that you had invested in and made a part of your fandom it just doesn't matter anymore, right? And that is, the disrespect that is to your fan base is so damaging.
Oh yeah, and it lingers on. Like the effect of it lingers on, and it doesn't stop.
We're getting an echo.
That was me.
Okay, it's gone. Sweet.
It's all right.
Yeah. Yeah, so no, that stigma lingers on, and I get it. I mean, if you're someone who's so passionate about something, like somehow I'm like the guy who I'm the guy who deals with the unforgiving girlfriend club. Like no matter how much hurt they give me, somehow I still come back and hoping that they'll be different. That's what I feel with a lot of these parties. That's why I still hold on to rumors so tight. Like you guys mentioned, holding on so sacred because we want to have that glimmer of hope that this will be the time that it's all right again.
Yeah, just another red shirt summed it up in a really good way. It's vandalism.
Yeah,
it's vandalism, right? And it's no different than walking up to. I don't want to use anything too high. I mean, we're not talking about like Picasso or Monet here, but walking up to any art gallery and just spray painting all over the goddamn paint, right? It's cultural vandalism. It's no different than the destruction of a piece of visual art, and to make it your own or to alter it or whatever the hell it is. It just makes me sick, man, and the damage that it does probably can't be undone.
No, it cannot. No, like I said, no matter how many people you bring back, it will never sum up to the equation. As we have said a few times, it'll never be what it once was. And that's why I'm glad, being a metalhead, we have metal fans, we really made sure our group is we protect what we do a lot. And if people want to call us homo or isphobes and ism, we're like, no, fuck you, dude. Our metal god is a gay man. So you don't get to tell us that shit. Our metal god's a gay man, aka Rob Halford of Judas Priest. So fuck you and miss me with that shit, man. That's our god. You don't get to tell us that shit. You don't get that, and that's why us metalheads we carry that so deeply. We invested in priests for this reason, and we're investing in that type of music. The last thing we want you to do is come in and change what we love just because you've already done it to everything else. I'm actually amazed metal has hung on this long to not being stigmatized. There's obviously some bands who have gone popular directions, but overall there's your priests and maidens of the world who have still been traditionally heavy metal, and people not trying to come in and change it for what it is because they want to make it for what they want it to be.
You couldn't pretend that it was still metal if you started fucking with the heart of metal.
Yup.
Unlike with our genre stories, you can still pretend. You know what I mean? But metal is metal, and if you fuck with what it is to try to, I don't even know how you could. It just is what it is.
You'd be amazed how many people try to tell us the water. You'd be amazed. Being into it as long as I have over the few decades, people are like, it needs to be watered down. You'll have your hard rock bands who they'll call metal, and they're like, but I like the ballad on the radio. It's just well, that's not that band we're talking about. They really want to like it for what they want it to be. And that to me is just so disingenuous. It's like, man, that's crazy. Why do you want to, you should like something for what it is, or even hate something for what it is? That's fine, because at least it's a genuine, honest answer rather than make it about you. Because nowadays Hollywood is reeking of making everything about whoever they're trying to make it about. Because nowadays, and somehow in some magical way, in order to enjoy something, you have to see yourself. Even though I can't relate to Bruce Wayne, I can't relate to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but I enjoy them both equally.
I've brought it up before, but the character that I connected with the most in the Umbrella Academy was Allison, the starlet black rich woman.
Mm-hmm.
Was the one that I connected with the most.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Alexander,
you can't do that.
You're too white. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You can't like her.
You're not a woman.
But Nick, as Alexander so correctly points out, you dress up like gay guys in London, just so you know.
Oh, hey, I've never been to London, but hey, I guess London's doing it right, man. I'm good with that. I'm with that.
That's my point, right? And to emphasize your point from earlier, right, about it there being just a complete lack of ists and isms within the fandoms for the most part. I'm not saying there aren't some crazy assholes out there like that, because of course there are. There's people like that in every type of
every type of community group, et cetera, et cetera. There is always the bad apple equivalent, and that's just how it always be. And we just gotta brush them off the best we can and make sure to let them know you don't speak for us.
Bingo. All right, gentlemen, I think we need to be coming to a bit of a wrap now. It's they haven't quite posted it up yet, but our friends Gary and Doomcock be kicking off the Inquisition here in a few minutes, because they're going to be pulling the plug on the power in San Diego pretty soon. So
Fascist.
But let's some quick final words before we wrap up. Draco, anything you want to plug? Any final closing thoughts?
No.
Yeah, you built me up with suspense, Draco. Gosh.
All right.
No, don't have that much going on. So it's going to be right back at the next new week, listening for the next mind-blowing thing to come out from someone saying that something means something when it doesn't.
Oh yeah, translation language.
Well, we are in the season. Let's just put it that way. And I'm going to stay as far away from that I have to, and just make the decisions that are most appropriate for the situation. That's all I got to say about that. But at least as far as YouTube and whatever, nothing much changed for me. Maybe I'll make something eventually. I don't know. Maybe you want to make something, Nick. What about you? What is going on with your life?
Oh man, my life is wild, dude. Like, I obviously with my YouTube channel, I'm a bit newer, but I enjoy commentating. Like, I'm a big foodie. Obviously, I'm a metal guy and a pop culture geek, hence the name 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. I have, each flavor is a variety of a topic I cover. So, and of course, one of my topics, I'm covering the boys on the weekly basis. And if there's something, fat-filled, sodium-filled, I'm probably eating and making a video about it. I'm actually doing a Wendy's video this week on that new pub burger. So I'm going to eat that burger and that new bacon fries. And I'm just going to hammer it like Matt Stoney style and not give a fuck. You're going to watch it. Oh,
yeah. I am there when you drop the video. I will watch it. 32 Flavors of Nickweiser. I have dropped the link to his channel in the chat.
Thank you. Got a logo coming out soon too. So it's gonna look all nice and pretty on my page. Yeah, I actually got a artist from the metal scene who's actually gonna work on my logo. He created, his name's Jason Barnett. He sings in a band called Petrification, and he also created a logo for the metal band from Texas named Power Trip. So that's a very big name for him to have done. Yeah. So I'm gonna have a really pretty professional page soon to match. Thank you, Lord Thoth. I appreciate that. But yeah, seriously, this has been an absolute honor to chat with the both of you. I hope to do many more of these. Many more of these.
Hey, let me know when you want to go live on your channel. We'll definitely see if we can round up a couple guys to come hang out.
Absolutely. The pleasure be absolutely mine in every sense.
Excellent. All right. Well, chat, thank you very much for being here. Those of you watching the video on the replay, by God, if you made it this long, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. And so do the guys. And, we always on YouTube have to repeat things and say them over and over and over again. And one of the key things that we have to do at the start of, probably in the middle of, and at the end of any video or stream that we run through is please remember to like the video, share it with your friends on social media, and consider subscribing to the channel, because our big competitors, your CBSs, your BBCs, your Disneys, these guys, they pay to make it so that it's harder to find us. So those simple steps that you can take and commenting in the videos really go a long way to help our channels reach more people and get that traction in the YouTube algorithm and to help us grow and talk to more people. We all think that bigger, faster moving chats are a lot more fun, and that's one of the best things you can do to help make that happen. All right.
It's truly the little things.
All right. But again, gentlemen, Nickweiser, Draco, thank you for being here. We'll catch you all later. I'll be in the chat on the Inquisition this evening, so maybe we'll see you there.
I'll see you later tonight. All right, guys? Take care.
See you guys.